おかえり。リフレッシュで。
企画部の高田ゆめ子って誰？
私が高田ゆめ子だけど。
私のデザインの何が悪いって言うのよ。あんただよ。
What's good, anime enthusiasts? Hope y'all having a wonderful weekend as usual. Thanksgiving has passed. Black Friday has passed. Well, technically, Thanksgiving hasn't passed for some of us, you know. Some people celebrate, you know, good eating Thanksgiving on the weekends, if you know what I mean. Stacking you up 5 plates to eat and 10 plates to go. Also, you still got the Black Friday weekend specials and sales that are probably still going on. Hope y'all stayed safe. Hope y'all have not become a statistic to the Black Friday deals. If not, hey, how you doing? This time around, we got another episode of, as you can tell from the title, Plus Size Misadventures. And this one is retelling when it comes to revealing more and more things, not only about Yumiko's past, but more about other characters in their past. We get to meet a new character who, God, rivals my favorite character, Tamai. Maybe even better than Tamai. We'll see how the rest of the series plays out. But for right now, Degawa and Tamai, those are my two favorite. Probably can't pick between them. Probably leaning towards more Degawa because of her more aggressive best friend attitude and style. But with that, let's get into this real quick. There's not a lot happens, but there's a lot less scenes that goes on with it, but there's a lot more divulging details. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the episode begins. Tamai checks on Yumiko and her first date. See if Yumiko actually found out what she likes. And Yumiko tells her, and then Yumiko asks her coworkers, yo, what was I like before I lost my memory? And the coworkers, they look at each other and go like, well, you didn't have much of a presence. You never really made any eye contact. You didn't do any skincare or hair care. But you know, you were always a hard worker. Came on time, never flubbed your work. So it doesn't give credence to like Yumiko's old self as we've seen and know. But at least the silver lining, her co-workers were actually paying attention to Yumiko and what she was like. It tells you they actually cared about her and cared about their co-worker in that sense. Because as some of you might be in a workplace to where your co-workers don't care a single thing about you. They just come in, get their paycheck and leave. They don't care about who you are, what you do, what you like. It don't matter, whatever. You were just another cog in the machine and they're ready to go home, you know. It's nice to have a nice workplace relationship with a bunch of people, with some people, because they might become your friends later down the line outside the workplace. Maybe they can help you out later. Who knows? They also might be knowledgeable about things. Like at my workplace, I know a guy who knows next to everything about cars. He's got a nice car himself, takes care of it, washes cars. I've instilled a whole bunch of possibly useless car information that I'll never know. But hey, if I know it and somebody asks something about cars and I know it, I'd be like, hey, I know a guy who knows a lot about cars. Let me introduce you to them. Or I could probably spew the information myself if I remember. But getting back on track. After a while and working, Yumiko goes on break. And she thinks to herself, maybe there's a special place I might have gone where I got on work. And she tries a couple of places to no avail. But she does find a place that seems like she remembers something from her past. The 8th floor. The 8th floor itself has no lights. Very dim, dark workplace. Looks unoccupied. It looks like she remembers something like a flash of memory, but nothing really sticks. And then she bumps into Kishke, who also uses this floor as his break place for him to rest because nobody uses the floor. It's unoccupied. They get to chatting a little bit, and Yumiko tells him, yo, I'm trying to retrace my steps, trying to learn my past. And Kishke puts on his dark look, asking, hey, did you remember anything yet? No smile whatsoever, not really concerned or anything. He's just like, hey, did you remember anything? Because remember, Kishke knows the detectives are looking into the case. And him and Rikako, they got something going on with Yumiko. So Kishke is probably just trying to see if Yumiko remembers something and maybe snub her out or make her misremember. Who knows? But Kishke switches faces, grabs Yumiko's hand and brings her to an old lab room where planning division did work. At that same time, that was also where Kishke was in the planning division and part of the same department. And he removes the blinds and he shows her this great view. They chat up a bit, getting close, and Kishke talks about the past a little bit of where he was in the planning division. Him and Maezono butted heads, but they were great co-workers. Nice. Kishke tells Yumiko of a moment that both of them shared some time ago on the very same floor, where Kishke bumped into Yumiko when she was coming out of the elevator, and he helped her pick her stuff up. And Kishke recognized that she was from the planning division, and he gave her a compliment and everything about her keeping notes. And the old Yumiko got flushed and just ran off. So Yumiko was saying, "Oh, that was probably the time I fell for Kishke, thinking it in mind." I was like, yeah, true, maybe. They chatted up some more and they get a little closer. Scenes pass and then Yumiko's back from break. Not even 5 minutes. She couldn't even get into her seat. Someone busts into the room aggressively, not yelling at the top of her head, but aggressively looking at me. "Hey, who's got an issue with my design? Who put it down?" And they're like, "Huh?" And then she locks eyes on Yumiko and saying, "Oh, you got a problem with my design?" And then she just goes off on Yumiko. And Yumiko stances up, gets mad a little bit, and she's about to go off on her, but Tamai kind of pulls her back like, "Yo, hold on. Before you make an HR complaint here, this is Degawa-san. She's from TT Design. She's a veteran designer that's heading the project design for years. And she's actually helping us out with your product design." Apparently, Yumiko rejected Degawa's initial design, quoting it as being lovely, but nothing special. Oh. Hey, Degawa's got a problem with it. And Yumiko's like, "Well, it should be one of a kind, unique, something that's never been seen before. Should be something closer to me, like me, one of a kind, unique." And Degawa goes like, "Huh?" And then she, full ultimates, just goes off on being like a designer as a whole, how she and probably her workers of her caliber are not good enough. They're being demanded of so much. Their designs getting rejected over like this and that and other small things. And Degawa was like, "You know what? I'm off this project. I'm done. Peace." And then Maezono comes like, "Whoa, hold on, Degawa. No, please don't go." And Degawa's like, nah, this ain't it. No, we ain't doing it." And Maezono's like, "Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go see if I can get her." And Yumiko's like, "You know what? I'm gonna make the packaging design." Everyone's like, "Huh? You sure you can do that in the amount of time?" And Yumiko gets to it. And while she's researching designs, she notices an old design done by Degawa. And she actually likes it. And then this is switches. We switch POVs. We actually follow Degawa for a little bit, going back to a workplace. And this is like a day or so afterwards. Yumiko shows up to Degawa's workplace and she shows Degawa her design, and that looks like a kindergarten or first grader could do that, and it's like an insult. But Yumiko uses this as a springboard to say, "Hey, I tried. I didn't realize how much work went into this. And I looked, and while I was researching, I saw one of your old designs. It looked really cute. It looked really awesome. I was so amazed at what you did. And I would really like your expertise, and I would really like you back on this project for the design. I think your design would be amazing for this." And Degawa pauses for a moment. And it's that whole, okay, now that you understand the amount of work I put into helping you all, now that you understand that, maybe we can get somewhere. And Degawa agrees. So afterwards, it's another day. We're still following Degawa at this point. And Degawa's watching a commercial and scene, and seeing Yumiko kind of crash the interview or be part of the interview, one of those things. It gives Degawa an idea. She gets it together. Next day, Degawa shows off the design to Yumiko, and Yumiko is overjoyed, and both of them are happy. And as they're talking, we find out that Degawa used to be friends with Maezono and Kishke, and she's very familiar with them being friendly, using kun, the suffix, when referring to Maezono. And much earlier, instead of calling Kishke or the VP, on the appropriate titles, she calls Kishke by Yuki, and you're like, oh, this is for those that are the uninformed initiative. Depending on what honorifics you use, it lets you know how A, familiar you are with the person, and B, how close you are with them. So using kun when referring to Maezono means that you're much friendlier to them, especially in a professional setting, at a basic level. Degawa and Maezono very friendly towards each other. And when Degawa does not use Kishke, or calls Kishke as Kishke, or calls the VP, and calling Kishke Yuki by another name, you're like, oh, completely familiar with them, must be friends or a little bit closer than that. Crash course, there's a lot more to it, but that's the basic gist of it. Anyways, we get a little backstory from Degawa as she explains the relationship between all three of them, to where they butted heads a lot. First of all, hold on. Degawa started working with Yumiko's company 7 years ago, and she worked closely with Maezono and Kishke. That was when Maezono and Kishke were in the Pledging Division and on the same team. And all three of them butted heads a lot, but they managed to get a design through for a product. They were great friends, and they started to become a little bit closer. And Kishke was very bold at that time. He put in more hours than anyone when it came to that product and design. And while he didn't show outward, when the project was rejected, and it wasn't rejected, actually missed its mark on sales, Kishke was the one that was most upset, drunk his problems away. And Degawa was like, you sure you want him being like that? And Maezono was like, I would rather Kishke be cocky for him to not be afraid to take a chance on these things. I was like, dang, Maezono, you're a really good guy. Shoot. And they all had a great work rapport. The interesting thing is that things shifted when Rikako, the president's daughter, was introduced to the team. Rikako was studying abroad before she was hired on to her father's company. And even Kishke used to be in the same university club as Rikako. And then all four of them started working together. They started getting close, started becoming really good friends. That good work rapport going up and up and up. During one long night, Rikako chats up with Degawa on outside their apartment on the veranda. And Rikako was like, my father wants to arrange a marriage for me, but I already like somebody. And Degawa was like, okay. And then sooner along, as us the viewers we know, since it's already been revealed to us, but Degawa, it's revealed to Degawa that it is, Maezono, as Rikako and Maezono to leave the apartment by together, being lovey-dovey. Afterwards, it's a couple days pass, and Rikako is out with Degawa at a coffee shop, and Rikiko's like, hey, I'm pregnant, and I need some help. I don't know if I can tell my father. I even told my father that I'm dating Maezono. And Degawa, she's that ride or die friend. She's that ride or die girlfriend. She's like, you need to convince your dad. And if your dad doesn't approve, I'm going to make him approve. Cracking her knuckles and everything. I'm like, you go, Degawa. I need you in my corner. And you know what? Rikako follows the advice. She gets married. She actually convinced her father. They get married. And everything seemed to be good. But Degawa tells Yumiko that the marriage was the beginning of the end. It's also the end of the episode. Woo! Okay, so we got a whole bunch of information set in. We got a little bit more of the backstory on how Kishke and Maezono and Rikako, how all three of them interacted with each other. They were actually really good work partners, work friends, and it wasn't all bad blood. But hopefully next episode we get to learn more about how that blood became to be so bad, how it became so boiled, and what happened. You know, that Kishke used to be young and bold, and now the Kishke now is really not reserved but more collected, and he is really two-faced. He knows how to be serious and aggressive, and he knows when to be calm, open, and somewhat vulnerable. Degawa, nice introduction of a third-party character who can tell Yumiko these things, and also has a nice attachment to everything. Really dig that. And just knowing that the other coworkers actually cared about Yumiko, even though she was quiet and not wanting to deal with other people as her old self. And even her old self was hardworking, despite everything that went on with her old self and how negative she was. So it shows that even though Yumiko had a lot more negative qualities and outlooks about her, she still had some very good golden nuggets. But that is the end of this episode. Comment down below, tell me what y'all think of this episode. Comment down below and tell me what y'all think of Degawa and my new favorite character, or one of my new favorite characters that's vying for the top spot against Tamai. Any prediction of what's gonna happen next so far? I'm really getting into this mystery of what's happening, of what's going on with Kishke, Rikako, and Maezono, and how that really connects to Yumiko and her attempted murder. But with that, I'll let y'all get to your little weekend. I hope y'all having a good. I hope y'all have a good day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world, and I hope your day is just a little bit better than it already is, and you're probably full by Thanksgiving leftovers. With that, we'll catch y'all in the next episode. Peace.